Hey guys, Professor Bill, Comic Book University. And Conan, issue number 25. What do you call a 25th issue? Like a special 25th issue edition or story or a jubilee, if you will? Like what exactly is that called? All right? Either way, we get it. Whatever label you're going to put on it, whatever nomenclature you're going to go with. That's cool, baby, because the issue in question is actually here. When you have a story that there was stuff before it and stuff after it, you're going to have to do something special. But how many special issues can you have? How many special episodes of Webster can you possibly have? Some of you are old enough to remember this TV show, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. And you're like, yeah, wasn't every episode a very special episode of Webster? um, this was good. This was almost even better than I thought, but they didn't quite go there. I guess there's a licensing issue. I'm going to talk about that first. Credit where credit's due. This issue is called The Nomad. It is proudly, this tale of Conan the King, mind you, is proudly brought to you by Jim Zub and Alex Horley. Those happen to be the writer and the artist, respectively. Richard Starkings and Comic Craft's Tyler Smith on letters. This was wild. It looked spacey at first. The way that the issue started off, and this was supposed to be Aquilonia, of course. That's the country that Conan winds up becoming king over. Yeah. And one of the best versions, one of the best understandings of King Conan is that his blood is still hot, but his body is getting a little, I'm 50 years old, right? I'm a member of this Facebook group called BJJ, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu over 40, right? And this July, I looked at that page again. I'm like, only 40? 50 years old, still trying to do some BJJ, baby. It is not fun, but it's man stuff. And that's what we're meant for. That's what we were built for, right? A ship at harbor is safe, but that's not what ships were built for. So here's Conan. And I love the idea that he's got he every so often he feels he has to test his guard, right? His chief of the Black Guard, right? Very similar to the Red Slayers with King Kull, right? Why do I bring up King Kull? Because this whole story, I don't want to say reeks because that kind of gives a negative connotation, but it reeks. It definitely reeks of King Kull. This story has to have been very highly influenced by a King Kull story. It might have been the third King Kull story, right? Where Kull is hanging out and all of a sudden he gets this thing about him where he's like, I need to go out and figure something out, right? And Brule, the Spear Slayer, is like, no, you need to chill. And he's like, no, Brule, I need you to trust me and just let me go. And he goes out. He's the king of Volusia. I believe it's Volusia. And he goes out and he sees this tower and this room of mirrors all around him, kind of giving you vibes of Conan the Destroyer movie, right? With Arnold Schwarzenegger. He sees this room with all these mirrors around him. And he's being told by this dude, hey, just check this out because this is your past, this is your present, this is your future. Like this is everything about your life for the most part. And he starts dying because he's reflecting too much. And this is Robert E. Howard's idea of, and hold on, I'll get more to the story. This is kind of important because this like I said, this is what essentially helped to inspire at least a portion of the story, and Conan the King himself. So King Kull is sitting there and he's slowly dying, and it's Brule, the Spear Slayer, who shows up and helps him out by breaking the mirrors and killing the wizard who had tricked Cull into this sort of, I don't know, vacancy of the brain and the rot of the body. And basically, this was Robert E. Howard's way of saying we can't live in the past. And his past, of course, wound up beating him, right? And it's a shame, but rest in peace nonetheless. The idea that Cull had to realize that you're not living in the present if you're focused on too much on the past and the future. The past is done. You can give a quick, curt apology for it while you keep moving on, headed towards the future by doing the now. Right? These are important lessons for all of us, every single last one of us. Even my cat who's making noises out there, that cat, T'Challa, he better understand. You can't live in the past or worry too much about the future, because here's where we are. Conan is old. It's got the gray setting in. I might know a little bit of something about that. And he's dealing with, the weight of being more of a person who's in charge. He's dealing with a bunch of little rats around him who, I'm talking about people who act like rats, who, the king and I never actually saw that movie. We are both curious about what you're doing. Conan, king, great king, sign this writ of punishment and we'll be rid of this beggar, this nomad, right? This guy comes in and he's got albino white skin, but he's covered at first. And the guards say, we don't have time for you. And he's like, well, I'm happy to wait. He's like, then you'll wait forever. He says, so be it. And he sits right in front of the steps, right in front of the entrance, and he just waits all day. No food, no water, no inclination for either. And suddenly one of Conan's people come up and say, hey, he's got an invite to see the king. So he goes up and he derobes, and you can see this big muscular body. He's albino. And I am not lying when I say, if this turned out to be Elric of Melniboné, I would have straight up lost my crap. That would have been so amazing, but probably not going to happen anytime soon. And that's a shame. I'm going to point this out. Listen, Jim Zub's a busy guy, all right? He keeps himself busy, and it's my understanding from observing this guy, he has got a work habit. I don't know about better than mine, but a pretty darn good work habit that would probably equal mine at least, right? Like you have to separate time. Like I need to separate time to spend with my cat. Otherwise he abandons me, time with my kids individually and together, right? Time with my kids who aren't even living with me anymore. I mean, my wife, my work, right? My multiple jobs that I do. It takes a lot to do that, but it's okay, right? My body's going to fall to crap if I don't go and do BJJ or lift some weights once in a while, right? It's okay for it to be hard. You don't pray for an easy life. You pray for the resolve to handle it, right? To meet that challenge head on. That's what we do. Nobody emphasizes that better than, well, one, Jesus, but two, Conan. They both had long hair. So I'll say that, right? But slightly different the way they went about doing things. This nomad goes and says to Conan, and it's not Elric of Melniboné, darn it. Michael Moorcock is still alive. It could happen. It could happen. And I would love to see Zub write it. But hey, it could happen. Anyway, so he goes and he says, I have a gift for you, even though I've come with nothing. But you need to give me 3 days of, living as a guest in the palace. And everyone's like, no. He's like staring at him, and he's looking to see if there's any ill intent there. And Conan detects none. Did he make a mistake? Maybe. Was he right? Maybe. we can only look at things with our own discernment and understand them based on not even our predilections, just more of, what we know, our own life history. What we know of ourselves, we judge in someone else. We could get into, was he right to take this on or not, to take this guy in or not. But what I will say is this, I wouldn't even call it a challenge. This was a chance at life again. That's the way I look at it, right? I think you could see, if you read this comic book, which you should read this comic book, buy and read this comic book. This is a reread kind of comic book. This is no joke. Like, this is really good. But my takeaway from this is that Conan had an opportunity to relive his life, to see if he would have chosen to do anything differently, right? Even though different things are happening to him, that distractions are out there, and where exactly we're going to go. He's married, but here's the love of his life, right there with him again. There is some nudity in this book. I think 3 panels there were of this. On the copy that I received, this digital copy that I received, I do not see any rating on the story. That's a shame. I've realized recently that both Marvel and DC, for the comics I've read at least through them, have been putting ratings on their comics. I hope that Titan decides to do the same. I know the idea of regulation, censoring. Listen, self-censoring is far better than somebody else coming in to censor you. Listen, if you've got a potty mouth, okay, you've got a potty mouth. But if you could fix that and control it on your own, you choose what comes out of your mouth. Here, I'll have a potty mouth. Over here, I won't, right? Well, then you don't ever have to worry about someone necessarily asking you to step back on your language. You don't have to have somebody demonetize a YouTube video for the things you say, right? We don't live in our own world. None of us do. None of us get that privilege. So we should learn how to self-regulate. And I think Titan would be very wise to start self-regulating, just because it's either that or somebody moves in, right? And somebody could move in at any moment. So it's not that hard to put a stupid little rating on there. It's like, hey, for 13 plus, or, adult only, whatever, 17 plus. I don't know, this needs to be 17 plus. But 13 plus should be perfectly fine for this. I'm loving what I'm reading in here. When you can write a story that gets you thinking, there's going to be some people who just don't, it's all top of the head with him. Okay, that's fine. That's perfectly fine. I think this story will be enjoyable for you also. I don't think it's a bad thing to point out, just in case anybody's curious. I don't think it's a bad thing to imply that this story was inspired by a Cull story or by anything else. Like, who cares? When the Conan stories are being inspired by other Conan stories, or Conan's predecessor stories, or anything written by the original creator of Conan, I don't think that's a bad thing. You don't want to take what in the Dungeons and Dragons world we would call a pre-generated character, who turns out has had a lot of fanfare throughout his existence, and then just start playing him completely differently, right? How odd would it be to play Raceland Majoret in, I know some people say Magier. It's Majoret because I said so. My world. No, like how odd would it be to have Raceland Majoret and he pulls out a sword and starts going at it with Lord Soth? I mean, how odd would that be? Am I wrong? So when you have, a character, you have to draw inspiration from what preceded it. It's pretty much mandatory. Otherwise, you're doing your own thing. Otherwise, you're a narcissist. And otherwise, your comic is going to wind up getting canceled. I think hell would have to freeze over for this comic book to be canceled. I'm not saying that they can't lose the license for Conan over there at Titan. What I am saying is, I think Conan has a home for a very, very long time right now because of how well it's being written, because of the trust that Titan has put into Jim Zub. There have been a lot of different artists on all of these different Conan stories and some of the other stories also. And that shows not just a trust, but much like I'm sure they did with Zub, the idea that Titan sat there and instead of just saying, okay, let's just throw some of our most popular people on here. Let's just do this. Let's just throw, poop at the fan and we'll see what hits the wall and sticks. No. You do a little research. You ask for submissions. You actually take applications. And you actually see who is the best fit for this role. Just like any job, just like any contract that I take, I have to continually prove myself, even for people who I've worked for before. I have to constantly prove myself. Hey, I'm the guy for the job. You remember this and this project? Do you want to go with somebody you can trust? Or do you want to try somebody new? For something like this, let the newbies try the lower tier stuff. Give me the big thing. Give me the thing that pays better. That's just what we have to do all the time. That's what Titan Comics is doing, has done, and continues to do. I'm sure if somebody better than Zub came along to write Conan, I'm pretty sure Zub would be, moved to the side or put on, part-time duty or something like that, which says a lot about the idea that Zub is still doing this. But that's neither here nor there. I think it is a fantastic thing that we get to have comics like this coming out on a very consistent basis. When other companies or writers send, and it's always the writers, sending me their work, hey, could you review this? Hey, could you review that? Sometimes I do. Considerably, very rarely I do. If I read a story, I'm going to want to review it. If I review a story, I'm going to want to say good things about it. But I can't sit here and lie about what I'm doing. Neither can T'Challa, right? I can't lie about a book and sit and say, oh yeah, this was a pretty good book. No, I don't have to be mean about it, and I'm not, usually. But when I see Conan coming into my inbox, little smile. I noticed it this time. Little smile kind of creeps up on the side of my lip. Little smile. I'm like, this one's going to be easy. That's really all I've got. But if you don't have this comic book, then that's not all you've got. Go out and grab this comic book. It's good stuff. And if you get the figure, I'm very religious with my budgetary, needs and whatnot. I still have a kid in school, in university. I'm still trying to pay for things that I still got a budget. All right. So I would love to get this figure, but if you get this figure, if you get your hands on this figure, send pictures. I'm just saying, you might convince me to buy it anyway, but yeah, holy crap. Like, man, what a time to be a freaking Conan fan. If you're brand new to this is what you've been missing. And it's cool, baby, because all those books are still there. So go grab them, go read them. And then you'll only appreciate these stories right now all the more. Okay, fine. That's it for me. I'll talk to you guys later. Like the video, watch an ad. Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Class dismissed.